Grand juries belong to the people. They are not part of any government. Who believes that? No. Is that true or is it not true?
It doesn't matter if it's true or not. If the judge doesn't believe it, the grand jury of the people will be moot.
Okay, that is a consideration as we go through the night. Who's going to go along with it? Who's going to believe what is supposed to be? So the introduction. Pay attention to the word who. We've got that word 3 times in this little introduction. Knowing who has all political power and who is the sovereign in the United States is paramount to knowing who has charge of the grand juries and what the purpose of the grand juries are. And we have been hoodwinked as to what a grand jury's purpose is and who has control of it. So we're going to answer the question of who has charge of these things.
Who will understand and recognize?
Right?
All the who's and who will.
Right. So what have we been taught about grand juries? Just okay.
For indictments.
There are 4 indictments. What's an indictment?
You're guilty. We're going to have a trial.
Not quite.
Sufficient evidence has been presented.
Sufficient evidence to charge has been presented. And so that's why we use grand juries. Who usually convenes a grand jury nowadays?
The sheriff.
Not nowadays.
Some judge.
Usually some judge.
AG, prosecutor.
An AG, a prosecutor. Okay. We've got anything else? Any other knowledge about grand juries? How many people are on a grand jury?
Mob.
Pardon?
Some kind of mob.
24.
24 is one, some places. 14 in some places. How many in Utah?
Haven't seen one, so I don't know if they have
I
any.
served on one in Arizona and it was 14.
14 in Arizona. 7 in Utah. 7. A lot of the states have 12. Some of them have 24.
And the problem is many of the grand juries are repeat offenders. They keep on calling the same people for the grand jury.
And how do we even know how they call the grand juries? How do they call them?
Who does the calling?
Who? Who does it?
Some elected guy that's on the tape.
Let's see what our lawyer says.
They don't do anything about grand juries in law school.
In law school. They don't teach it. No, there's a reason for that. So what's our relationship as the people to the state and to the federal government?
Right now, slaves.
Slaves, yeah. Well, according to Amendment 10, anybody know off the top of their head what 10 is about?
States' rights.
States'
All
rights.
powers not specifically endowed to the federal government remains within the realm of the states to enforce.
Or to the people.
Or to the people, yeah.
Or to the people. So that's something to keep in mind. So anything that's not specifically given to a branch of the federal government stays at the state level or at the personal level.
So if it's not in the Constitution delineated, the federal government should not be involved.
Did you hear that? If it's not in the Constitution specifically saying that the federal government has this job, they don't have that job. They are limited to Section 8 of Article
We have a
3.
bunch of people marching down the street. Is that a movement of the people that's valid? All right, here's a bunch of people marching down the street wanting some issue, voting one way or the other, whatever the thing is. Does that constitute a mob or is that a movement of the people?
Is it peaceful?
Well, until somebody shoots.
As long as it's peaceful. Because look at Section 1 of the Utah Constitution, which reflects every constitution. To assemble peaceably, protest against wrongs, and petition for redress of grievances. I hear things. Okay, so what does it mean to assemble peaceably?
No fighting, no shooting, no sticks, no clubs.
Are we assembling peacefully right now?
Yes.
Yes, we are. We're a group of people. Now, John Blatnick and I, Sunday, went up to the Capitol, and we were there with, what, a couple of hundred people maybe?
Yeah.
And we were protesting lowering the age of sexual consent to 13.
What?
Yes, it's passed.
What?
It was in an omnibus bill, and they passed it to lower the consent to 13. Stuart Adams, state, Senate president, had a situation with one of his grandchildren and was trying to protect them and just slipped this right into the omnibus.
Himself.
Pardon? So, we were protesting. There was a lot of speakers, there was a lot of people. There was probably, 8 bodyguards there, personal bodyguards, I would say, for the group. And there was probably 4 policemen, I would say, on the perimeter, kind of keeping an eye on things. Pardon?
Highway patrol, that's their territory.
Yeah. So the highway patrol was there.
Were you protesting after the fact?
Well, nobody knew about it.
Okay.
Nobody knew about
I
it.
hadn't heard of it.
It was snuck in. So yes, we were calling for Stuart Adams to resign as Senate president. Oh, and Cherie and Dick were there too. I forgot. Because Cherie's the one that told me about it. And we were protesting, saying that he should step down and that they should reverse it. So what did Stuart Adams say on Monday? Oh, they have the story wrong. The media blew it out of proportion. It's not true, and I'm not resigning. But there was a lot of mad people. So this brochure that I passed out to you, we passed out 100 of those to about half the crowd, I would say. They were very amenable to receiving that because they were ticked off about softening the abuse laws. There were other things in there that were going to soften the abuse laws. So we were petitioning, or they're talking about doing a petition for redress of grievance. What does redress of grievance mean? Linda?
Means someone pays attention to your problem and does something about it.
So we're paying attention to the problem and we're trying to do something about it. We're asking for a remedy. We're asking for something to be done, to be made whole, is another way of saying it. We want a change. So we have a right. Okay. Inalienable. What does inalienable rights mean? Cannot be removed because it comes from whom? God. So, there's nothing they can do about it. Our redress of grievance is a God-given right. Also, to protest against wrongs like we were doing. And we were assembling peacefully. And I asked a group of 45,000 people, actually, that I'm a part of, to please pray for us on Sunday because I was actually frightened to go. Because there's so many false flag type things happening at gatherings these days. But I thought that's one way to keep us from assembling peacefully, and I'm going to go anywhere, and God protect me. If it's my time to go, I guess I'm going to go, but I hope not. So I had all these people praying for us, and it was extremely peaceful. There was no untoward things happening at all. There was a lot of media there. I found out today, I was looking through something, I went, oh, I'm on television. So, I don't know, did you see you on television?
I was hoping I wasn't.
I didn't see you, but I had this big hat on because, you know, we were out in the sun, and so nobody could see me, and I went, oh, phew. I knew it was me, but I don't think anybody else would know. But see, I'm afraid of things like that just because of some of the backlash, and we shouldn't be afraid to assemble peacefully, protest, and ask for a redress of grievance.
I accidentally done a second West prayer.
Okay? So, Article 1, Section 2 of the Utah Constitution. I'm going to ask you the big question. This is probably my third presentation. Who has read the Utah Constitution? Yay, we're getting more hands every time.
Standard, not detailed.
If you don't read anything else, read Article 1. Article 1 is the Bill of Rights, or the Declaration of Rights. And there's like 29 little paragraphs. So that's doable. So if at least you read that much of it, that will get you a good ways ahead of the ball. But Article 1, Section 2, this is going to answer one of our who questions. All political power is inherent. That's another God-given word. All political power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority for their equal protection and benefit. So, who started the government? The people did. And why did we do it, according to this? To protect us,
From government.
to protect us, and for our benefit. We saw benefit in coming together. So, if our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness are covered, are we happy when things are not to our benefit? So is it constitutional? So you kind of see how this works? Now, they've been a little bit tricky in the last 100 years. How many of you read the U.S. Constitution in school? Okay, there's a few of us that got that. I think my teacher was a John Bircher in San Diego. It's pretty funny, my history teacher. And I think he snuck it in. It wasn't in our books. For, I think it was 5 weeks, we read the Constitution every day. And we kept going, but that's not how it's done. And he would smile and go, interesting, isn't it? He was undermining the system by teaching us the Constitution.
Were you brainwashed?
I was brainwashed to believe the Constitution. My parents took me to Skousen classes when I was 3 and 4 years old, and I sat under their chair, and I was told, if you be quiet, you can sit here. And so I think by osmosis, I learned things about the Constitution when I was 3 and 4, because I was taken to Skousen things. So I think that's where it started. But definitely that teacher taught me a lot about the Constitution just by reading it and going through it. So we've answered one of the who's. All political power is inherent in the people. Okay? So, we know that the power is supposed to be coming from us, okay? And they tricked us by not teaching us that. So that's where it starts. It's by not teaching. So what's our responsibility now that we know that? To learn and to teach, right? Because you can't teach what you don't know. Do you know why I'm always offering to teach these classes? Because I'm a better student when I'm going to teach. I look at things much more closely. I told Michael, this is the fourth time I've listened to this grand jury series, and this is the first time I really got it because I was going to be teaching it. So that's why I volunteered to do this, so that I can learn better. Okay, who are the sovereigns in our system of government? Tell me your name, I don't know you.
John,
Hi, John. I'm
we're
Susan.
the sovereign.
We're the sovereigns. Are you sure? Are you a sovereign citizen?
Yeah, I believe I am.
The Republican Party, which meets at the Alta Club.
You just want to get that Alta Club in there. John?
Would you mind going back to the previous slide very quickly? And this is one reason why it's so critically important to read the Constitution. And I'm not in the least bit joking, and this is a new camp for me, certainly. But this section number 1 on the bottom right left, and this is just one reason why to follow these things. That's the original. All men have the inherent and inalienable rights. If you look at it in 2020, they changed that to all persons. So anyone that understands about the specific legal definition in all of the U.S. code system, the word person doesn't mean us. It doesn't mean us, or it shouldn't be, but we're in that ballpark. And so that's one, just a throwaway idea. And the reason they said they did it that way is because they needed to be more inclusive for all these genders. That was the reason.
So when I quote from the Utah Constitution, I always go to the 1896 version. And because the 1896 Constitution was instituted about 25 years after the bar was put in, there's a lot of bar nonsense in the Utah Constitution that shouldn't be there. For instance, we have the right to bear arms, but the legislature has the right to control it. No. The whole grand jury, section 13, is all bogus in the Utah Constitution, the original Constitution. So there are things that we need to go back and fix, even in the original Constitution. Like I said, if you go to Virginia or some of these older states, they don't have that kind of nonsense in it. They have pure common law in their constitutions, their original constitutions. So that's...
Well, Virginia is a commonwealth.
Don't confuse me. So, talking about sovereigns, there used to be this slur that people would throw at people saying, oh, you think, and they would do this in court, and I've heard them do it in court. Oh, do you think you're a sovereign citizen? As a slur, as a national sovereign citizen. There was a movement several years ago to become a national sovereign citizen. I don't happen to believe in that because I don't see it written in the Constitution. But we are sovereign. And they reaffirmed that in 2024 through the Supreme Court in Loper versus Raimondo. And the last 5 words, the American people are sovereign. Okay, so they also said in this brief that we have to correct some of the wrongs that have been done in the past.
Part of the problem too is when you say the word sovereign is, at what point in time is your definition of sovereign? Are you 1828 or are you?
I always use Webster 1828 dictionary because that's the closest dictionary we have to the Founding Fathers' meanings of words. So I use 1828 dictionary, or I use Black's Law Dictionary 4 or 5. I don't use, I use 4 more. It's in the 20s, 1920s. I think 5 is in the 1970s. But anything after that is garbage. They're up to 12 editions now. 6 through 12 are garbage. So if you want to know the real meaning, go to Black's Law Dictionary, version 4 or 5, and 1828 dictionary, so that you really know what the Founding Fathers meant. So now we know.
We all have inalienable rights. We are all equal. and that the powers of government derive their just authority from the people themselves, that we are sovereign.
It is we the people. Those are the first three words of the Constitution. And you are the sovereign in this country.
And you look at the promises in the Declaration, and they're so profound, right? We are all created equal. We have inalienable rights. They don't come from government. They belong to each of us. And government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. We are the sovereign in this country, we the people.
Pretty cool, huh? That Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch, Neil Gorsuch, he has really been putting some powerhouse things into his writings for the Supreme Court. So whenever he writes an opinion, I read it very closely because he's doing a really good job of putting these kind of thoughts into things. He wrote a book, what's the name of it? Overruled. I would recommend it. Okay, so what is the concept of the grand juries? What are grand juries for? Let's talk about that a little bit. Max?
Between a jury and a grand jury.
Okay, good question. What's the difference between a jury and a grand jury? So a jury is at a trial of your peers, you know, a jury of your peers. So you've already been charged and you are now trying to prove your innocence and they're trying to prove your guilt. That's where the 12 jury members sit. Before that happens, in Amendment 5 of the Constitution, it says for all capital crimes, there are supposed to be an indictment or a presentment of a grand jury. So if there's any high crimes, what's a capital crime?
Perjury.
Treason.
Something you can die for. A capital crime is something you can die for. Okay? Or, yeah, death penalty or life or whatever. That's a capital crime. They are always supposed to do a grand jury for those. How often do you hear about grand juries? Rarely. I think they tried to do one against Trump. I think they did one against Nixon. I mean, it's really rare. You don't hear about grand juries. But what are they for? Discovery. They're supposed to receive information. So they're called, and they're called by county. It's a county thing. So they're called, like, let's say Utah, it's 7, but that's not legal. It's supposed to be 12 minimum. So let's say 12 people are called, and somebody says, I've got this evidence that there might be fraud being committed, or something like that. And so the grand jury researches the accusation and tries to see if there's enough evidence to charge them.
In the annals of justice, there exists a powerful mechanism born from the very essence of human rights and natural law, the people's grand jury. Let me take you on a journey through this remarkable institution that stands as a testament to the power of the people. The concept traces back to medieval England, where it was first formalized in 1166 under Henry II's Assize of Clarendon. The great philosopher John Locke would later affirm this fundamental right, declaring that power ultimately resides with the people, not the government. Sir William Blackstone, in his commentaries on the laws of England, emphasized that grand juries serve as a shield between the power of government and the inherent rights of the people. Now let's understand how a people's grand jury operates. Unlike statutory courts, these juries function independently of government control. They are not an arm of the state, but rather a direct expression of the people's authority. This distinction is crucial. We're not talking about citizens in the statutory sense, but sovereign people exercising their natural rights. The process begins with the assembly of righteous men and women who are well versed in common law principles. This knowledge is paramount because common law stands above statutory regulations, directly connected to our constitutional foundations and public trust contracts. As Blackstone noted, no man in civilized society should be bound by laws which he has not had a voice in making. The jury typically consists of 25 good and lawful people from the community. They gather evidence, hear testimony, and deliberate on matters of justice that affect their community. Their authority stems not from government appointment, but from natural law, the same principles that inspired our nation's founders. What makes this process particularly powerful is its independence. These grand juries can investigate any matter affecting the people's rights, including misconduct by public officials. They don't need permission from courts or government agencies to convene or issue indictments. The jurors must understand that they're operating under the highest law of the land, not as subordinates to statutory regulations, but as defenders of constitutional principles. This is why knowledge of common law is essential. As John Locke emphasized in his second treatise of government, the people have a right to maintain their original rights against all who would violate them. Remember, this isn't about operating within the confines of governmental authority. It's about exercising the inherent rights of the people. The People's Grand Jury stands as a reminder that true justice flows not from government edicts, but from the natural rights of human beings to govern themselves. This institution embodies what our founders understood, that the power to seek justice belongs to the people themselves. Here it's a living testament to the principles of self-governance and natural law that form the bedrock of true liberty.
Susan, you said that the grand jury was for a capital offense.
Okay.
So fraud wouldn't be that, right?
Um,
That doesn't deserve capital punishment.
True, but it's an egregious offense. So if it was a huge fraud, like the Treasury Department,
Like what we're seeing right now.
yeah, kind of like the stuff that we're seeing now.
Like what Hillary Clinton was doing.
Yeah, so, it has to be a very, very, very serious accusation. So there should be grand juries being called.
I was going to ask a question. I was curious, is the reason why you would go to the grand jury instead of just the prosecutor deciding to come against you is because in a situation like that, you don't want one person having that kind of power. So you want to have people to say, hey, should we really prosecute this person for this?
How many of you were upset by how many charges were brought against Trump? How many of you thought some of those charges were bogus? Do you think a group of 24 or 12 regular citizens would have charged him with those crimes?
Depends on
Yeah,
what
why, yeah,
area.
sure.
Depends on if you pick the right guys or not.
What is the selection process?
The selection process in the old books, because I've been reading very old books from the 1600s, good and faithful men. That's the selection process. Used to,
It's good and faithful Democrats.
and in England, it was the Knights of the Round Table. That was a grand jury. That's what that was. It was 12 knights in the area saying, we've heard these rumors that so-and-so is sleeping around and getting, raping women and doing all this stuff. And so we're going to get together and we're going to call in witnesses. We're going to subpoena records. We're going to do whatever we have to find out what's going on. That's what a grand jury does. It's to protect the people from bogus charges. But it's also, if the people see problems in the government, it's to go after people in the government. Some people call grand juries the fourth branch of the government. That is not true. It's not the fourth branch, but it is very different than anything else in the government, as we will see. Here, this is 1906, this Supreme Court case. It's for the grand jury to investigate any alleged crime, no matter how or by whom suggested, and after determining the evidence is sufficient to justify putting the parties suspected on trial, to direct the preparation of the formal charge or indictment. So they gather enough information that they're not just wasting people's time.
Who do they direct?
Who is who?
The jury directs a trial be held.
So they fill out an indictment. And nowadays, they would give it to the county attorney. In the old days, they would just give it to the judge. But now, it would be given to the county attorney to go ahead and indict. Trump was indicted in a Georgia county. He had to go. It was just a county attorney that said, you know, we want you to come to our county. We think you did something wrong here. And so they did. Trump had to go to Georgia. So there's a lot of power in indictments. You can't, ignore it. All right. So text of Amendment 5, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime. So an infamous crime just means a very serious crime, unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. And let's see what presentment means, because these are old-time words that we don't use a lot. It's the report. A presentment is just a report. They gathered enough evidence, they made a report, and then from that report, they do the formal piece of paper called an indictment. And the indictment is what the county attorney takes to the sheriff, and the sheriff goes and arrests them. Okay, that's kind of the process. So an indictment is a formal charge of a crime or misdemeanor. Preferred means regarded above others. So it just means that it's, yeah.
Who organizes the grand jury? Who's administratively in charge of the proceedings?
The grand jury always chooses somebody to be in charge, just like in a jury trial. There's one person in charge, and they kind of run things. But the judge is supposed to give them instructions. The only instructions the judge is supposed to give a grand jury is what's in the Constitution. There should be no talk of statutes, codes, anything else. The only thing that concerns a grand jury is the Constitution.
Does the judge control the jury?
No. They have, no.
If he's giving instruction,
No, the only instruction he's giving them, this is what the Constitution says about this particular issue. That's it. That's all he can do legally, lawfully.
So if a grand jury indicts someone, it's high in the political realm, and then the district attorney or whatever doesn't take that and prosecute that person, what does the grand jury do then?
Charge the district attorney with maladministration for not following through with what they told them to do. So he's on the line.
sovereign people had the power to command it.
Right. They have the power. Tell me your name.
I'm Martin.
Hi, Martin.
I thought I heard a different question. Is the question I've been thinking of is you said that the grand jury can start a grievance, if they see some corruption in the government. And so how would, let's say I saw something, and I do see all kinds of things in the government that concern me. Can I somehow, do I have the power to initiate a grand jury?
There's a petition process. In Oklahoma, they have a much more spelled out process than Utah. If you get 100 people together in a county that are concerned about this, then you can petition for a grand jury with 100 people.
In Oklahoma, you would write up a petition of cause or subject, and then you get 100 people to sign on.
Yeah.
And then the district attorney or somebody has to convene a grand jury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, who's that convener? Is it always the
It's a district judge in the county. And most constitutions nowadays are saying that the judge chooses the grand jury. Now, I don't know that that's especially lawful. We'd have to go back into some of these old books that I've just begun reading from the 1600s to see how they used to do it. The sheriff used to do it. That was how the common law did it, is the sheriff chose the 12 honorable people he wasn't having trouble with, right? The sheriff knows who are the troublemakers and who are the good people, usually, in a county. So it used to be the sheriff. And I personally, I haven't totally researched this, but I believe that's how it should be done, through the sheriff.
What's the Constitution of Utah say?
That there has to be enough public interest per the district judge that they would call a grand jury. So you've heard about judge shopping? So you have to find a judge who would believe you. I guess you could take a petition, or you could take a notice, or you could stand on the steps of the courthouse and demand it.
Publish it in the newspaper.
Publish it in the newspaper. There's a lot of different ways that you could bring it to the attention of a judge.
So you've got to own the newspaper to get your story out.
So what we are trying to do as a group is gather enough people that know about the grand juries, because if we can get 1 to 3% of each county, or of any county, knowing that we have this right, we can be the squeaky wheel until the government starts going, oh yeah, we're supposed to have grand juries, and oh yeah, they can petition for it. And because sometimes citizens have tried to do this in the past and they've been thrown in jail by the judge saying they don't have a right to do it, when they perfectly do have a right to do it.
Well, that means when these guys are running for office, you need to have grand jury questions prepared.
Right. That's a good idea. Okay. This was made by Summer Cook, a friend of mine, and John's, that also studies with Dave Jose. And she just did a little video 2 days ago, and it has over 25,000 views in 2 days. It's really gone viral. It's just a little bit about what a grand jury is.
Today, let's explore one of the most powerful tools the people have to protect themselves against government overreach: the people's grand jury. Many don't realize that this institution isn't actually part of the government at all. It belongs to us, the people. Think of the grand jury as a shield, a critical barrier standing between the people and potential government abuse. As Justice Antonin Scalia once powerfully stated, the grand jury serves as an essential buffer, preventing the government from pursuing unfounded criminal charges against individuals. But here's what's concerning. Over time, the government has systematically worked to block our access to these grand juries. It's like having a powerful defense system that's been quietly locked away from its rightful owners. This wasn't how our republic, and yes, we are a republic, not a democracy, was meant to function. What makes the people's grand jury so special? They have extraordinary powers that many don't realize. They can conduct their own independent investigations when they suspect government wrongdoing. No need to wait for official channels or bureaucratic approval. The grand jury can look into matters on their own initiative. Perhaps most importantly, they have the sole authority to decide whether criminal cases should proceed or indictments should be issued. This power isn't meant to be in the hands of prosecutors or judges. It belongs to the grand jury itself. They can subpoena witnesses, demand documents, and even investigate public officials. The beauty of this system is that it puts real power in the hands of regular people, not citizens, as that term implies government authority over us, but the people themselves. We're talking about everyday individuals coming together to ensure justice and accountability. Think about it. When was the last time you heard about a people's grand jury exercising these powers? The fact that this crucial institution has been effectively sidelined should concern everyone who values liberty and justice. It's time we reclaim this vital tool of accountability that our system of government was designed to protect. Remember, the grand jury isn't just some quaint historical concept. It's a living, breathing mechanism for the people to maintain their sovereignty and ensure government remains accountable to those it's supposed to serve. By understanding and reclaiming our grand jury rights, we take a crucial step toward preserving the checks and balances our republic depends on. The power has always belonged to the people. Perhaps it's time we reminded the government of that fact through the proper use of our grand juries.
So, let's look at the brochure. Open it up to resources. This is where Summer got her information. The 1774 Suffolk Resolves, and if you type that in, it'll come into
Question, where are you on the brochure?
resources.
Okay, turn the page, there you go. Right there on the right side.
And there's a lot in the Suffolk Resolves. Blackstone also talks about it. You'll see in my video, I'm going to show you in a little while the exact location of where Blackstone says it. If you look into common law, I looked, I believe it was, I can't think of his name. It wasn't Blackstone, but there's a lot of grand jury old books about the grand jury that talks about what the common law was. And then this U.S. Supreme Court of the United States versus Williams, 1992 case. And if you open it up to this page right here, we're going to read that. This was a Supreme Court case in 1992, and it says, because the grand jury is an institution separate from the courts, so it's not part of the court system, over whose functioning the courts do not preside. So the courts aren't in charge. We think it clear that as a general matter, no such supervisory judicial authority exists, and that the disclosure rule applied here exceeded the 10th Circuit's authority, rooted in long centuries of Anglo-American history. The grand jury is mentioned in the Bill of Rights in 5, but not in the body of the Constitution. It has not been textually assigned. So it doesn't talk about who's in charge of the grand jury in the Constitution. Therefore, to any of the branches described in the first 3 articles, it is a constitutional fixture in its own right. It is separate from all the other branches of the government. In fact, the whole theory of its function is that it belongs to no branch of the institutional government, serving as a kind of buffer or referee between the government and the people. So I have a lot of quotes like this. We're just trying to get you introduced to the concepts. Linda?
How do you enforce this with the court system that doesn't recognize it?
Because if enough people call for something to happen, it happens. Justice Gorsuch went on a book tour in 2024 because he received so many notices telling him that you must tell the people that they're sovereign, that he finally did it. His book tour, he did a book, and he did a book tour, and he went on all the television shows and told everybody that they were sovereign. That hadn't been talked about in 100 years. And there are other things like that, like we told them you have to disclose that they can't tell us what kind of arms we can bear. So if you notice from about 2019 on, they've started going against these rules that say you can't do this to your gun or you can't do that. And they tried to stop us. And
Talking about machine guns versus
all kinds of guns. And it was put out by the Supreme Court that they can't tell us what kind of guns. They don't have the right to do that. And there's other things that we've been able to get the Supreme Court to come out and say. And the only way we've been able to do that is through notices and affidavits. So you make their life so uncomfortable by showing them what the law is, showing them what the maxims are, which the common law is, and there's no way they can back out of it. So we do it, we put them into a corner. And it's like, do you agree with this or don't you? And if they say they don't, they're in trouble because they raised their arm to the square and said that they would uphold the Constitution, states and federal. And so you back them into a corner and they start capitulating. Because if they don't, they realize they're going to be on the grand jury list, and they don't want to be. So fear, pretty good motivator. That's what we're saying, that we need to get enough people understanding this and talking about this. Like there's a little video, 25,000 people in 2 days. That's a lot. You know, Summer's been studying with Dave maybe 3 years longer than I have. So she's a little further along, but she has another one that she put out today that's equally as good. So we've just been learning from Dave Jose by going back into the old authors, 1600s, 1700s, and looking and seeing what was the purpose of the grand juries, what are we supposed to be doing with them, and all these things that we want, like justice for this kind of nonsense. It all goes back to the grand jury, and Dave says it's something to have information. A lot of constitutional groups have been aware of grand juries, but they didn't know how to start a movement, get a lot of people up and moving. And he said, this is the perfect opportunity. This has crossed everybody's moral line. Democrats, Republicans, they want to see justice, the everyday people. Linda?
Do you have any examples of a successful attempt to do this?
We're just gathering to do it. We haven't done it yet. We're the pioneers.
Do you remember the case that Jared brought up? I think it was in Oklahoma, I believe, or Colorado, of this rabbi that...
Oh, that's right. Tell him. I'd forgotten about that.
This was probably more recent, but in Colorado, there was a rabbi, I believe, and it was something involving his son, I forget.
He was accused of abuse.
Yeah, and so he got, through, I think it was the appeals court, but he got access to a grand jury there, and that may be the first pebble in the funnel. If we get that one.
It was in 10th Circuit Court, which we are in.
Yeah, so that could set a tone then for the whole country, because all of the states block the people's access to the grand jury. They investigate corruption in the government. I wonder why they would block it.
Right? And Justice Gorsuch is from 10th Circuit. That's where he started. He's from Colorado. We want to learn about grand juries, and we want you to teach other people about grand juries so that we can come together as a group and start putting pressure on our local people. And I'm going to show you in a little while how we're going to start doing that.
Some material sensitive for children. All visual material is the intellectual property of Susan Manning and/or her PMAs. Membership is voluntary, private, and strictly for educational purposes, so that the wisdom of Jesus is only used for good. Members assume all liability resulting from any and all uses of benefits examined herein, and acknowledge all people are innocent until proven guilty. And by joining this PMA, absolve Susan Manning and all her PMAs of all liability in all matters, and continuing beyond this slide constitutes full knowledge and consent to all terms of conditions. Special thanks to Dave Jose for sharing these ideas and allowing me to share them with you. Do you want justice for the children raped by Epstein and his partners, starting with arrests?
Did you know our forefathers set up the law for moments just like we find ourselves in today? Did you know that the grand jury system historically was a group of people not controlled by government that went after government corruption and it could investigate any wrongs? This means all the talk of investigation by the Department of Justice, the FBI, or Pam Bondi, or anyone else is not necessary. Political figures and activist judges have no way of limiting justice. What if President Trump, as part of his acceptance of office, swore to the fact that people have the right to the grand juries? We can immediately have access to report wrongs of any type and get investigations and indictments. We can clean up the wrongs happening the right way and see justice done. Take an individual American, and you may often find him selfish and confined to his special interests, but take the American in the mass, and he is willing to die for an idea. The sweet revenge, therefore, is this, that we believed in righteousness, and now we are ready to make the supreme sacrifice for it. The supreme sacrifice of throwing in our fortunes with the fortunes of men everywhere.
In the 1774 Suffolk Resolves, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams reflect belief in citizen-driven accountability. Blackstone says the people could approach grand jury without a judge's or prosecutor's permission.
Common law, the people allowed to swear out crimes and report directly to the grand jury without judge or prosecutor permission. Because the grand jury is an institution separate from the courts, over whose functioning the court do not preside, we think it clear that, as a general matter at least, no such supervisory judicial authority exists, and that the 10th Circuit's authority is rooted in long centuries of Anglo-American history. The grand jury is mentioned in the Bill of Rights, but not the body of the Constitution. It has not been textually assigned, therefore, to any of the branches described in the first 3 articles. It is a constitutional fixture in its own right. In fact, the whole theory of its function is that it belongs to no branch of the institutional government, serving as a kind of buffer between the government and the people.
If you want to get justice for the children and fix the wrongs of government and bad actors, you have to restore the tools that have been secretly taken from us. Join us here at Real Dave Cares for You, and then go to www.restoremyrepublic.com.
Okay, that's a little video that I did based on this pamphlet. Now, some of you that have gone to classes before, I've talked about notices and affidavits. Notices are pieces of paper that teach government officials what the Constitution says. And people are saying, how are we going to get them to give us back the grand juries? We're going to do 5 of these notices, and each one is going to get tougher and tougher. This first one is just a soft pitch. It's really easy. And that's the piece of paper that's in front of you. So it's a notice and demand for a point of clarity regarding people having all political power. Notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. Any secretary who gets this, because we're going to certify mail these, any secretary that gets this is considered an agent, and it means their boss has received it. Okay, so they can't say they didn't receive it. You put your name in there. One of the people, as seen in the Utah Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, Republican informed, sui juris. Sui juris means you're coming under common law. You're not pretending to be a lawyer and knowing all the statutes. You're coming under constitutional law only. That's what sui juris means. Do serve you, judges of Sanpete County and the Utah Supreme Court and other trustees, this notice by necessity in this court of record. This notice is considered a court of record to demand a point of clarity in preparation to convene a grand jury to investigate maladministration in government, including the taking of children without constitutional authority. We're going for the low-hanging fruit. This is very easy to prove. The Social Security Act of 1935 states very clearly, nothing in this act is for any government entity to take any child against the objection of either parent or guardian. It's right in the original act. So everything CPS and DCFS is doing in taking children is completely unlawful, and it's very easy to prove. So please take notice that I serve this by right and not as part of any case. Please take notice that all political power is inherent in the people. And then we quote from the Utah Constitution. This is the only thing we're asking them to do. Please take final notice that it is my wish and demand that you give a point of clarity. Do you agree with the Utah Constitution? That's it. Article 1, Section 2, do you agree? By the way, that's the one they tried to change with Amendment D. There's a reason they went after that. Please take notice that this is sent to you in the peace and love of Jesus Christ. Read Luke 11:52. Who knows what 11:52 of Luke is? talks about you hypocrites, you hypocrites and lawyers, that you don't enter in yourself and you won't let anybody else enter in either. So, and then this is the list of everybody that we're going to send it to. So these first two are the district judges in Sanpete County. Brody Kiesel and Alex Goebel are the juvenile judges in Sanpete County. Mark McKiff, Cindy Probert, Gary Owens are the justice court judges here in Sanpete County. Justice Matthew Durant, Pierce, Hagan, Peterson, and Pullman are Utah Supreme Court judges. These two judges there, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those 5 judges are the appeals court judges. That's where all the family court stuff goes to. So if you're appealing a family court ruling, it goes there instead of directly to the Supreme Court. Then we're sending it to Justice Neil Gorsuch. We're sending it to our county attorney, Kevin Daniels, the U.S. District Court Judge Robert Shelby, our Attorney General, the Governor, the U.S. Attorney General, the President, the Sanpete County Sheriff, the Utah Senate President, Senate Majority Leader, and the Speaker of the House in Utah. So, we are asking all of them, do you agree that all political power is inherent in the people? And they're likely not going to answer. They hardly ever do. That's our first piece of evidence for a grand jury. You were given this opportunity to say whether you agree with it or not. And we're going to do this 5 weeks in a row. And they get increasingly tougher. So the next step, on the back here, that little video that I did, the institutional video, this is the QR code that you can send to your friends. You just aim your camera at that, it pulls up a website, and you can share it to your friends. You can take a picture of the QR code. There's a lot of different ways to get this to people. If you would share this with some people, this QR code up here takes you to wethepeoplesgrandjury.com. And in wethepeoplesgrandjury.com, there is a button that you push, and that you put your information in there by county. We're trying to gather people by county. And it's important that we get as many as possible, because as long as they can hide it from us, we can do nothing. But when we come together, we have more power. So the contact form is wethepeoplesgrandjury.com. We'd like you all to do that. If you wouldn't mind taking out your phone and going to that QR code and filling out the contact form, that would be very helpful, so that when we start assembling in groups in the county, that we can all come together. If we get between 100 and 300 people in Sanpete County aware of this, we really have a shot at doing something. And so it's really important that we all think about, do we want to take back the grand jury? Do we want to have the ability to go after people in the government that we don't agree with? Anybody read the article about the 88-year-old man that went after Spencer Cox this week? Yep. And all the crap he found? Wouldn't you love to have him on a grand jury? He could bring out a lot of information. I mean, he's going ahead and doing a lot without the grand jury.
That has to do with the COVID money that he stole.
That's right.
And half of it went to his company.
Right. Yeah, there's a reason he built an 8-foot fence.
I think it might be not just valid, but important to mention that some of the, you can look at this and go, well, but a lot of this was precipitated by individuals thinking from this point of view. their children are taken from them. It gives it a whole different emphasis. Because if my children had been taken from me, I would be bullish. It's easy to say, oh, well, you know, but if you contemplate what started a lot of this, and the gentleman that spoke once at the rally up at the Capitol,
How?
because the children have been taken from them.
And there's a lot of corruption with satanic ritual abuse in our area, and it's being ignored. So we're trying to get the grand juries together so that we can see actual justice happen. So it's really important if you have any issues that you are concerned about. We're only starting with this issue. It's really important that we come together, because once we get a grand jury convened, say because of this, they can go after anything else. We can start handing them tons of things to research. They're usually put in for 6 to 12 months into a grand jury, and they're paid so that they have the time to really research and do what we want them to do. Yes, sir?
Paid by who?
I'm learning. I don't know. I'm at the beginning of learning this too. Like I said, I'm teaching you as I'm learning so that we can all learn together. I don't have all the answers.
How did you learn, any of you, how did you learn about this Cox thing? I mean, it's a fraction of what has been done. But I never check my email. I'm not a techie person. I should have been born 150 years ago, but I saw something that you sent.
You should check your email.
For some reason I opened it. That made a huge difference.
Yeah, and I didn't know about the rally Sunday until Cherise said, "You going?" It's like, what? What's going on? Yeah. So word of mouth is huge, huge, huge.
Send it to me, I'll send it out.
Do you know who this woman is?
Can't see her.
Virginia Giuffre? The one that suicided?
If you're watching this, it means they got me. My dead man switch activated automatically after I missed 2 scheduled check-ins. I had it set up months ago because I knew this day was coming. I did not die by accident. I was murdered to keep their secrets buried. My name is Virginia Louise Giuffre. I was one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. I survived Little St. James, but survival came at a price. I saw too much, knew too much. And now they've silenced me. But it's too late for them. They thought killing me would bury their secrets, but this video is going to a few organizations I trust, ones that have been exposing the truth for decades. You know who you are. It's your job to continue this fight. I was 16 when they reeled me in. I worked at Mar-a-Lago, folding towels, cleaning lockers. My father kept the tennis courts immaculate. We were just working folks trying to scrape by. Trump, he was around, but he was never the threat. The real predator was Ghislaine Maxwell, prim and proper, smiling, promising to teach me massage therapy at the Pink Mansion in Palm Beach. I had no idea I was being fed into a nightmare machine. Epstein's Island was hell disguised as paradise. You've heard some names linked to him, but those are just the sacrificial pawns. The real players, the ones they've protected at all costs, are still hiding in plain sight. I'll name 2 now. The first, a former U.S. president, Barack Obama. Publicly, he's revered. Privately, he was one of the worst. He wasn't there for the girls. He was there for the island boys. Young boys, trafficked and groomed. I saw him more times than I can count, always without his Secret Service detail, sometimes with his Hollywood friends, George Clooney and Tom Hanks. I still have nightmares about them, arrogant and drunk on power, slinking into the cabanas with kids barely out of childhood. The second, Bill Gates, the billionaire philanthropist, loved by the media, hailed as a savior. We called him the benefactor, and we used to dread seeing him naked. But he didn't come to party. He came to experiment. Genetic experiments, human experiments. I saw him inject a young girl with something they said was a genetic enhancement. She was younger than me, strapped to a table, terrified, treated like a lab rat while they muttered about seeding the future of the species. These men think they are gods, playing with life like it was theirs to own. I'm telling you now, Epstein isn't dead. They staged his death because he was too valuable. He held blackmail on some of the most powerful people on earth. Files, videos, confessions. They couldn't risk him talking, but they also couldn't risk him gone, so they hid him. Stashed him under the protection of the same elite who once paid him to supply them with flesh. And they thought killing me would stop this from coming out. They were wrong, and there is so much more to come. Hidden servers, encrypted drives, witness testimonies. It's all going to hit the light. This video is just the first detonation. The data drops are timed and automatic. They are going to people who can make a difference, and nobody can stop it now. Not even the law enforcement agencies in the US and UK, the same ones that buried the evidence I handed them, can stop this truth from getting out. If you're watching this, you are the resistance. Don't let my death be just another headline. Burn their lies to the ground. Make the world see the monsters behind the masks. And to any survivors out there, don't give up. We're in this together. They can't kill us all. Make them pay.
That was sent out through approximately 20 different media sites. You know what a dead man switch is?
Oh, yeah.
So she missed 2 check-ins, so it automatically sent out to all these media outlets. And she has it set up that they're going to keep happening. Okay? Now, I don't know. She thinks that she has it hidden good enough that they can't find it and stop it. If this is the only one that we ever get, this came out, I believe, July 15th. If we don't hear any other ones, then they got to the information. She's not the only one. I personally know of, 6, 8 women that were satanically, ritually abused here in Utah. And their perpetrators are still going free. And I'm mad.
Did you get enough information for a grand jury?
Do I have enough information for a grand jury? I think we can get it. I think we can get it. Yeah, I do. So, we talk about the big city, that when somebody gets murdered and the people are standing around with their cameras and they're not doing anything about it, and we think how horrible those big city people are. Are we going to do something? This is right in front of us. It's horrible. And this is just a scratch. Just a scratch. If you had been there Sunday and listened to those victims of abuse, satanic ritual abuse, parental abuse, it was horrible. Sex trafficking. And it was all through our culture here in Utah.
That we are number 1.
They said we're number 1 in abuse victims here.
I was raped by Jeffrey Epstein at 22 years old. People often call him a child rapist, and while that is true, he also raped adult women, women in their 20s, women like me. When we only focus on the children, we erase the lives of adults that were shattered too. Rape doesn't suddenly hurt less because you're technically old enough. The trauma is real regardless of age, and the damage is long-lasting. Every survivor, child or adult, deserves to be heard, seen, supported, and believed. All of us matter.
And this is just a little bit. This is one issue that I think we can all agree on is horrible. But once we get a grand jury convened, we can bring in all this kind of financial stuff, all of this mess that Cox has brought to us. We don't have to sit back and feel helpless. Together, we really can do something. And I hope that the least thing that you will do is go to this QR code and put in your information so that we can start gathering. And if you would sign that piece of paper and give it to me, I will take pictures of them all and send them to all those people that I showed you.